All right, hello, hello. You're listening to the Lemon Drop Sessions. This is the first episode in a minute. Thanks so much for checking us out. The Lemon Drop Sessions, a podcast about food and music. We have a really fun guest today, Ryan Bad Ryan, Ryan Bradley, with his new book collection, Bad Connections.
Yeah, my new short story collection, Bad Connections, comes out next month. I want to start out like on air thanking you for your flexibility because we were supposed to record this last night,
Mm,
and my flight from New York got canceled on Sunday, and you were totally game to just move the day because we were flying from New York to Austin
yeah,
when
I
we were supposed
mean,
to be recording yesterday.
yeah, I mean, I know the writer's life basically, and yeah, I mean that's sort of what I'm dealing with too. I mean, I'm actually trying to write my own short stories, man. You did the thing. You've got this whole collection ready to rock.
Yeah,
So I was happy to do that. Actually, there's this uh film producer out of Detroit that I've been talking with, and we've had a bit of back and forth with scheduling. So I uh I was definitely happy to make that work, you know. Um
nice. Well, I appreciate you. What kind
yeah,
of short
yeah.
stories are you writing?
What's up?
What kind of short stories are you writing?
Oh man, thanks for asking. I want to do something in the gangster genre. Just
Okay, so like
easy.
crime.
Yeah, 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 duh. Crime.
And do you want to do like Sopranos where it's like really, I mean, it's melodramatic, but there's like this semblance of realism, or do you want to do like Dick Tracy where it's just like over the top, people getting Gatling gunned all the time?
I think probably closer to the Dick Tracy
Oh man,
version.
that sounds fun though.
It does. Yeah, I mean, the gangster genre is coming back. The Gentleman came out. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
It's interesting. It kind of made me think for this podcast because it's got um just like things that are hip right now. There's like a little bit of boxing in there, and um just references to interesting Japanese whiskey for one. Just like there are just these references to kind of what's new and cool like today. I thought it was really interesting. So you're among all the different things that we're trying to work on together.
Yeah.
I got the okay from you to record for your short story Urge. I'm going to do the narrator voice for that.
Yeah.
So
Um,
I've been reading Urge, very dark. How did you come up with these plot lines for all these different short stories and bad connections?
they mostly kind of just pop into my head. For the Urge, I wanted to do like a tribute to scary stories to tell in the dark. So it starts out with like a very similar frame to the sweater. I think the story's called in that collection,
Hmm.
where they pick up the woman and the sweater's left behind. But there's a
Uh,
twist on the Urge that makes it its own story, which you know about, but I don't want to spoil for readers. Um, I think it's pretty cool. For a lot of it, it's just like the first story, which I think is the best one, which is why it's the first story. No point crying. I was thinking about why there's no milk cartons with missing people on it anymore, and it was just like, okay, what if you find a milk carton with your face on it? What happens?
right.
There's a lot of like stuff like that, and I just write it from there. I'm
Yeah,
definitely like a discovery writer, so I don't know where stuff's going when it starts. So it's a more fun way to write, but it requires a lot more rewriting at the end to make things all line up.
man, this is so refreshing. It's nice to hear that your perspective on writing. It could be kind of a solitary pursuit, you know. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so how long did it take to write this short story collection?
So the oldest story in there is from 2014, and that's Catholic Guilt. That was published in Gothic Blue Book. It's five or sixth cursed Wait, I have it next to me.
Mhm.
The Gothic Blue Book 5, the Cursed Edition, which was published by Stoker Award winner Sina Palaio. She hadn't won a Stoker Award at that point, but I was super
Right.
grateful to her. That was my first published horror story, and it was the one that made me feel like, okay, I can do this. So I'm really happy to have that in there. And then the last one is from 2024.
Hmm.
I just finished it January or February.
Yeah, that's a great
So
feeling, I bet.
oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good feeling to finish stuff. So like basically it was over 10 years, but I didn't write them with like the idea I'm gonna write a short story collection. I
Hmm.
just like wrote shorts, and then when I had enough for a collection, I was like, okay, it's time.
Yeah, that's great. Great, great, great. Just before we started recording, you said that you have this sort of podcast mode or, promotion mode,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's just like, what you're kind of like, whatever you want. Like, I'll just, if
Yeah.
it's time to go, I'll go. I was just like, well, okay, man, I gotta click in here. Like, so, what's that experience been like promoting this new book? I think
It's
I
been
actually
good. This is
asked.
my first podcast appearance or video appearance. So
Mm,
I'm still like knocking off some rust, I think. Hopefully I'm doing okay.
God, me too.
But yeah, it's just like I'm training for a marathon, and the promotion is very similar where you're just doing like, I mean, this is self-published. There's no one making me go anywhere, which is
Right.
like it's nice to not travel, but it's also like I would love for a publisher to pay for me to fly to New York and do a reading there. But for me to do it myself, I don't think there's interest. Um, but I'm fine with that. So it's a lot of social media posting, which I hate doing.
Mm,
It may not be apparent because I think if it looks like you hate it, people aren't going to engage with it. But like as a writer, like Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky are all like, okay, I can type something snarky here and it'll do okay, I hope. And then it's
right.
just like getting on podcasts, trying to do local events. And
Hmm.
then I'll be
Hmm.
doing a lot of like book fairs or conventions where I'll sit at a table for 3 days and people will walk by and hopefully I can sell them some books. I'll People can be really mean at those.
Really?
But hopefully, yeah. One particular convention, which I won't mention by name because I don't want to get anyone in trouble, people were just like, I think like when I'm selling books best, I look like
Yep.
I'm like, as I'm on video, so you can tell, like I look like I'm 14. And so I think people buy my books, they think like, wow, this is like his Make-A-Wish. This like, I'm gonna help this small child. I'm actually 34, like I'm halfway through life. But I that's the energy I sell with. And there's an older convention in Austin where the people are older. And I
Oh,
think I don't know if it's jealousy or they don't have that instinct toward me. The instinct they have toward me is like, I want to stomp that guy out. But I mean,
yeah.
it is what it is. It's out of my control. Yeah, it's like stuff like they got real mad and have business cards one year. And like it was like in the 2020s. Like, yeah, I don't have business cards. I still don't. I'm not gonna make business cards because it's everything is social now, like find me
Yeah.
on my social media and that's how it all works now. If you want to connect with someone, it's not like I'm going to give you a piece of paper and I'm going to call you on the phone.
Yeah, no, I guess that's true, man. I mean, I didn't really think about that, but like a card with someone's phone number on it is such a different thing these days. Yeah.
Yeah. If I do make business cards, it'll probably be a QR code to a link tree rather than my personal phone number. I don't want to give out my personal phone number. That's like for friends and family. That's not for business folks.
Oh man. So this is a compilation over the course of the year. Um, all right, so we got to make sure we hit the bases here with food and music, which is sort of the origins of this podcast. I just started all these different podcasts because I was going in all these different directions. Basically, I got to meet you,
Yeah.
like a year or two ago, and then I would just meet, one author or one actor, and like feel like I need something to sort of encapsulate their their journey better. But you have a lot of participation in the music world, and everyone should participate as far as food and music is concerned anyway.
Yeah.
So you teach guitar lessons.
Yeah, I've been teaching guitar lessons. During the pandemic, before the pandemic, I was a college professor. I taught Comp 1 and Comp 2.
Hmm.
And then COVID happened and everything shut down. And there was one semester where I taught online and I hated it because like what I liked about teaching was being in front of a class, interacting with my students one on one, like the out loud conversation is the part I think I was good at.
Hmm.
And it took all that away and like all the stuff I didn't like the grading and the writing prompts or assignments, all that stuff stayed. So it was like every good part was gone. And then I
Yeah.
got a new job when we moved at a new school, and they wanted me to teach online and in person at the same time. And I said, that's two different preps, that's two different sets of students. Like, because
Right.
this is for one class. It's like, are you going to
Right.
pay me twice? Because the
Hmm.
work is completely different. You're not doing the same work when you're teaching online, when you're teaching in person. And they said no. And I was like, okay, I'm out. And I started a
Yeah.
business teaching guitar lessons. So that was January of 2021, I want
Wow.
to say. Yeah, and I've been doing it since. I don't make as much as I made while I was teaching college classes, but I haven't graded a paper in 5 years. So that feels real good. Um, and some of my students have gotten pretty good. I'm excited for them. One of them is recording an EP. His name
Wow.
is Trevor Howell. He goes by Trevor
Very
Egg, I
cool.
think, as he records. So I'm definitely going to be blasting that all over my socials when it comes out. I'm very excited for him.
Wow,
So
man.
yeah, they're out doing stuff. It's really, it's almost as rewarding as making something cool to like have helped someone on their journey. And to be totally
Yeah,
like
of
honest,
course.
like Trevor would have been successful with or without me, I
Right.
think, in his endeavor to record an EP. I don't know how successful the EP was. No one knows how art will be successful or not successful financially. But like to be able to help him like just hone some stuff was just so rewarding.
Yeah, man, that's really incredible. And so you get out there now too, right? You've started playing some shows, some
Yeah, I
open
play an
mics and
open
stuff.
mic once a week, about maybe every other week, more honestly, because I have a 2 year old. But yeah, I'm having a blast. My goal is to play 100 songs without doing a repeat,
Yeah,
which is
man.
like guitar wise is pretty easy, but I'm not a singer. And it's
Hmm.
becoming clearer and clearer. Like I can really rock songs and like I call it yelling. If I'm just yelling, I can do it like 16 tons or
Oh yeah.
Breakdown by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Like those kinds of songs where you're not really singing, you're more just like yelling into a microphone. I can do okay. But as I like do more and more, I realize like, yeah, I'm a guitarist who like happens to have to sing now, and I'm not a singer who can play guitar.
Well, it's always that journey is exciting for anybody, vocals and stuff like that, man. Yeah. I, I don't know. Getting to mess around on a mic is it's a great thing, obviously. Um
Yeah. You
and
play too,
I gotta
right?
what?
You play guitar too?
Yeah, I mean, I might need some lessons from you. I mean, yeah, no, I just started picking it up again and like playing all the familiar chords, a lot of A minor going on personally,
Nice.
like uh no, it's such a great thing and um uh, you know, I think I might be the opposite. Hopefully, I mean, nobody's making me um sing or whatever, but I would love to get a few more check marks in that wheelhouse or whatever you want to say. Man.
Yeah.
All right. Look, man, I'm so glad you jumped on here and we're getting to do this for sure, for sure. You're based out of Texas right now, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
where were you flying in from again?
So I was in New York this weekend, Long Island, for my friend's wedding.
Oh,
And
okay.
there was a storm Sunday night. So we got to JFK, we went through security, we returned the rental car, we did everything. We waited for 3 hours and they said, your flight's canceled.
Oh,
But that initial moment sucked, right? And we couldn't rebook till Tuesday. But my sister lives in New York and she just got engaged. So we got to go to her house and hang out and we did just a bunch of tourist stuff.
yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, I'm training for a marathon. So I did both my runs in Central Park on Monday and Tuesday. We
Wow.
went to the Met with my aunt Ronnie, who is used to be a tour guide there like 20 years ago, so she
Yeah.
could showed us some incredible stuff. And on Monday we went to the Museum of Natural History. We had like great New York pizza. We had ice cream. It was
There you
honestly
go.
like a great impromptu vacation, and we didn't tell all of our friends that we were in town because like we didn't know we were going to be in town. So we had no obligations other than just like walk around New York City and have fun. So I don't know. It was the best flight cancellation I've ever had. Out of the three, the other two were horrible. This one was
Sure.
great.
Yeah. That's honestly a great story, man. Do you remember these spots you got to check out, like the pizza place or the ice cream spot?
The best pizza place we went to was Heritage Bakery, which, like, full disclosure,
Oh,
my uncle owns it. So we had like a different
what?
experience where he ordered us like, or his girlfriend ordered us a couple pizzas, and he came and ordered us like five entrees for me and five cousins and sister and brother-in-law. And everything was incredible. The pizza was great, the salmon especially. So it was just like really great food. The blackberry bramble was great,
Blackberry Bramble, huh?
and
I
it
gotta
was
write
right
this
out.
down, man.
Yeah, it's
Heritage
right across
Bakery.
from the New York Public Library in Bryant Park. So it's like a really easy location to get
Oh,
to from the subway.
oh my gosh. Well, that's great, man. How uh how did your uncle get into that Heritage Bakery?
He's been opening restaurants for as long as I can remember. So like I don't know how he got into it. I think he worked his way up. I think he started out as like a bartender or wait staff and just worked his way up into management. And then he found like he's just really good at opening restaurants, getting the
Oh my
money
gosh.
together, doing the launch parties, getting the staff, hiring people.
So, did you ever confer with him trying to, when you're selling books and stuff, do in terms of did you look to his launch parties at all, or were you just like that's a different thing, different field?
I never made the connection before this conversation. I should have done that. I think my book coming out in March, Say Uncle, I might actually pick his brain about that because that's a really good idea. It's too late for this book. So I think that would take like months to put together.
Hmm.
But for the next one, that's a great idea.
Wow, man. That's where it's at, man. You just dig for gold a little bit and you find some. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this new book, Say Uncle, is that in the horror genre as well?
Yeah, it's about a 15-year-old boy. He's trying to have the best summer of his life. He's grown up in the where I grew up, Milford, Connecticut,
Mm,
and his uncle, who just got a divorce, moves from New York City and takes his room. And the boy's prized Playboy, it's a penthouse actually. His prized nudie magazine is still in the room where his uncle is staying. So he
and it
goes
comes to
into the
life.
room, he sneaks
I'm
in.
sorry.
That would be a different book, but not a bad one. And he's trying to get the magazine back, and he finds this book like bound in human flesh in the desk where he thought his nudie magazine was, and it's his uncle's book. And it kind of all keeps going from there.
Wow. So, do you remember where you were when you were just like, it's a book made of flesh? Like were you like eating cereal or something?
So there was like a couple of years ago, I read a news story about
Mm,
a book. I think it was at the Harvard Library that they realized was bound in flesh. They like tried to figure out what the leather was, and they realized it was human skin. Um,
okay.
so I don't think I ever thought of that detail as much as like I read about it and I cataloged that. Like, okay, that's going into something at some point. I don't know where, I don't know when, but like that's too good not to write into something.
Wow, man. I kind of asked you this already, but just that's just it's really something else, you know. I was looking over your short story collection, Bad Connections. It's just shy of 50,000 words. I mean, do you have any sort of thoughts about which stories get to the table first, or uh is it you just write, you said, and then it happens the way it does?
For the most, sometimes I'll have an idea for an ending and I'll write to that. But most of the time, yeah, I think of a premise and then I start writing and I just add in stuff. The stories in the book I all think are all successful, but there's a lot of stories that just end up not working for whatever reason. Maybe I have too much
Right,
idea, maybe I have not enough idea. But it's not like
right.
everything I write down just comes out well as the discovery method. Um,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, cool, man. Right on. I really like that a lot. So we got into food in a really interesting way with this Heritage Bakery thing in New York City. I actually just today got a loan. You know that restaurant Italy that's in New York City as well?
yeah, there's one in Boston. It was across the street from a temp job I had.
That's right, and you were in Boston for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got this giant coffee table recipe book from Italy.
Oh,
Uh
nice.
it's really incredible, and I'm gonna have to mention it again as sort of the other facets or whatever this podcast gets rolling. People, if you're watching, check out the links that are gonna be in the description and everything like that. Like, share, subscribe. Go ahead and pick up this new book, Bad Connections from Ryan Bradley. Um, and I just want to say, it's legit that I fudged up your name before, because your book is called Bad Connections and your
Yeah,
last
yeah.
name is Bradley. So Bradley, Bad Connections. You saw
It's a almost a rhyme. Yeah.
you saw what was happening
Absolutely.
there, right? Right on, man. And so now you're in Texas, which has its own legacy in food. Uh, you said you'd be game to recommend some restaurants out in Texas.
Yeah. So I live in a city called Georgetown, north of Austin. It's about 30 minutes north. It has, and I might be making this up. There used to be a sign outside of there's a square, and there's a tourist office, like for visitors to Georgetown. And they used to
Mm.
have a sign that said the town square was the best town square according to Town Square magazine, like the number one town square. I'm not sure if that was in the world or America. It all seems very
Or the
fake,
world and America.
right? I feel like I maybe gaslighted myself into thinking this was true. I don't know. I swear I remember seeing that sign. So I'm gonna recommend some restaurants in and around that square. So
Right on.
my number one restaurant in Georgetown is called Jimmy Vega's. It is
Oh,
a barbecue place, and the barbecue in Texas is all phenomenal. They have a two
right.
meat plate for under $27. I know that's one of
Yeah, we
the
try to do
games.
our best plates under $27. Thanks, man. Sometimes I go fishing with that. It doesn't really work. You've got one?
Yeah, the
Yes.
Jimmy Vega's two meat plate. I would recommend if you're in Texas, always get the brisket. Because the
Mm,
brisket
mm,
is like what Texas barbecue is known for. It's great. It
sure.
should be, if it's done right, like doesn't really feel like you're chewing, and you don't really need to put sauce on it because the flavor, there's so much flavor in the bark, the skin of the meat.
Right.
The pulled pork there is great. The bacon there is great. If you've never had barbecued bacon, that's like smoked. So it basically just like melts in your mouth. It's incredible. The sausages are really good. I don't think I've had the chicken or the turkey, because I'm too busy eating the meats that will
Right.
kill me in a couple of years.
The first thing when I find a way out to Texas, I'm getting the brisket myself. I don't blame you at all.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right
The
on,
sides are
man.
all good, and he has a dessert called hobo cake, which I know is not the most PC name, but the cake itself is incredible.
Uh, isn't that a thing though? Like, did he invent hobo cake or?
I
Is
don't think he named it that. I think,
right.
yeah, I think it's a thing, and I think he's using the name.
What's in it? What makes it a hobo cake? Like,
I'll be honest with you. I can tell you that it's delicious. I don't have the palate to tell you what's in it. I just know that every time I go there, I get it. And
I'm
then,
gonna I'm just gonna look it up real
oh yeah,
quick.
yeah.
All
There's like a
right.
moment of joy when I'm eating it.
And we've still got some soundtrack stuff to talk about. Ryan, I was telling you that I'm sort of getting into sort of curating playlists, and you came up with one and you sent it right over. So that's going to be available soon to go in tandem with this podcast episode. And also, we're going to talk about a soundtrack from the original Dawn of the Dead movie. All the music is by Goblin. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah. I love so Goblin is fronted by Dario Argento, who's an Italian horror director. His most famous movie is probably Suspiria. Um,
Right, right,
but he is incredible. And the way it worked out was George A. Romero wrote and directed, along with John Russo for the writing, Night of the Living Dead. And the title card for that movie got lost, so it became public domain. And he directed like two or three other movies, but he never got any money from the success of Night of the Living Dead, basically.
right.
But Dario Argento brought him to Italy and was like, "You live at my house while you write the sequel to Dawn of the Dead." With the sequel to Night of the Living Dead, which was Dawn of the Dead. And Dario Argento ended up scoring the movie as well with his band Goblin. And what
Wow.
I love about the soundtrack is that like it's just like basically prog rock. Because you see like a horror movie today, right? Like a Conjuring movie, and it's just loud violins for the whole thing. And it
Yeah.
doesn't really have an atmosphere beyond like spooky. But I think when you listen to
Yes.
like the Dawn of the Dead soundtrack, like you feel things. Like this is
You
music you could
feel
listen to on
things.
your own.
Yes.
Yeah. And it
I
is
couldn't.
creep. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I really love what you're saying, man. I mean, you really brought your brains to this party. I really appreciate it. That's fantastic. Yeah, I was listening to the soundtrack just before we did this interview. I actually listened to it earlier, but I wanted to really get it fresh. And this most recent listen, like just the range. I mean,
Yeah.
the diversity in these songs and uh yeah, the actual feelings like, oh my gosh, I am feeling something, like
Yeah.
and that thing about the loud violins, I really really connect with that, man. And I just a quick redemption for
Mhm.
Hobo Cake.
Oh yeah.
Uh I closed the page by accident. But it was the idea of the hobo cake is that it could be made or eaten around a campfire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was actually like I don't think they were aggressively calling it hobo cake.
Good to
That would be
know.
wrong. Um, and just bear with me. You know what? I wish I hadn't interrupted a little bit. What
We're
tell me
talking
more
about
about this soundtrack from Dawn of the
oh
Dead.
yeah, and I guess I should say about the loud violins. I think that is a good sound for horror movies. My frustration more comes from the fact that it's the only sound for horror movies now. Like every horror movie
Yes.
sounds the same, but in the 70s and 80s you had like Dario Argento and Goblin doing horror movie soundtracks. You had
Mm-hmm.
Danny Elfman's band, whose name I'm trying to remember, Tangerine Dream be doing the soundtracks for movies, and it would be like its own
Oh,
work
right.
of art
It
next to
was
the
Tangerine
movie.
Dream and then Oingo Boingo or something like that.
Maybe I have. Let me look that up. Actually, I think I
So,
might have that
while
wrong.
you're looking that up, I brought back uh this hobo cake recipe. Uh, you can make it in a cast iron skillet. That's pretty dope.
Oh,
So I'm looking at a recipe from epicurious.com. We enjoyed it at the campfire as well as around the comfort of our fireplace. Uh, the recipe includes a dollop of creme fraiche. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Oh, it's
I
got
don't know either.
walnuts. I'm allergic.
Oh no. I'm sorry, Will.
just,
I'm
just
sure there's got
stop
to be another
recounting
dessert out
it.
there.
It's got brown sugar, nutmeg, cinnamon, shredded walnuts, all the regular stuff, baking soda, baking powder, egg, sugar, uh, nutmeg. I'm based in Connecticut. This podcast started in Connecticut.
Huh,
We are the nutmeg state. You started in Connecticut,
I
Ryan.
did. I did. Lived
Do you
there
have
24 years, 25 years.
do you have any sort of, because I've gotten to travel a bit myself and you've lived in all these different places in America. So uh like what's your connection like to Boston now or New York City now or Texas or Connecticut? Like what do you remember about those places?
Connecticut has incredible pizza. I would argue, and I get into arguments with people all the time, the best pizza in the world is in
Plenty of
Connecticut,
people
is my
think that.
opinion, New Haven. So
Plenty
I
of
love
people
that.
think that.
Boston, I remember there was like an Irish pub
Mm.
every 10 steps about. You'd go down a block and it'd be like there'd be an Irish pub on either end of the block, and they were both full at all times. Um, I was a graduate student in Boston, so I lived mostly off of like Irish pub food. So I don't have like a particular one I'm like connected to. I couldn't eat like that now. I'm 35, 34, and my heart would explode if I had that many French fries in a week or that many cheeseburgers.
That sounds romantic AF, my friend. Love that story.
Um,
I do
Tulsa
love a
had
good Irish pub too.
oh yeah,
Mm,
Tulsa has a great food scene. I lived there for 3 years. Like surprisingly good because I think
right.
when people hear Tulsa, Oklahoma, it's like they think of it as like a bad small city, but it's actually a great small city. And they had a really good food scene with a lot of great food coming in and out.
Wow.
Um, they didn't have any particular cuisine that they were like focused on. Like a lot, like New Haven, it's pizza. Connecticut, it's pizza. And like you go into a random pizza shop in Connecticut, you know it's going to be good. If it's not good, it's kind of remarkable. Like you wouldn't tell someone like I had a
Right.
great slice of pizza for lunch. You would assume in Connecticut, if you went to a pizza shop and got a slice, it was going to be good. Tulsa doesn't have food like that. Texas, it's barbecue, where you just assume if you go to any random barbecue shop, you're going to get something pretty
You'll
good.
just get the
Yeah,
premium
exactly. 'Cause
barbecue.
they're good at making that there. Tulsa didn't have that, but Tulsa had just like an incredible, vibrant food scene, lots of different cuisines. Um, it was not what I expected at all when I moved there, and I loved it.
Yeah. I will say, for the New York City side of things, um, I used to do like extra work, like
Mhm.
background work for movies and
Yeah.
stuff. And there was this studio like way out in Brooklyn. Even if you took uh the subway, it was a bit of walking. I don't maybe there was a better shortcut I could have taken, but there's this pizza place right near this one sort of movie studio in Brooklyn. I'll have to track that place down because that was really exceptional pizza. Sorry, I kind of, but you were in
Oh no, you're good.
Oklahoma, and
Yeah.
there's some story about a spider. There's like spider lore in Oklahoma City. Did you hear about that?
No, I was in Tulsa, so
Hmm.
I went to Oklahoma City once, maybe when we were there, just
Hmm.
to check it out. But I didn't hear anything about spiders. Do you know the story? That sounds fascinating.
It's like I watched like the first 30 seconds of that new Spider Madam Web movie, and
Oh
they
yeah.
and they referenced some deep cut about spiders, and I was like, I started doing this crazy, one of those internet rabbit hole things. Spider, Oklahoma City. Spider of Oklahoma City. Now it's just, oh no. You know what? I I was honestly meaning to do more of a feature on that. I'll circle back to that.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
Sorry about that, man. I thought that was gonna turn up because it's just because I like just saw it. It's like on Wikipedia even. Now this is driving me crazy. I can't just fall apart in this interview, but I really wanna finish this thread about the spider in Oklahoma City. I'm like
It's
dying here.
okay.
It's
It's
like
your
it's
listeners are gonna be they're dying to hear it on your next
they're
episode.
just like, "What the F? What the F?" But, man, I've been really enjoying this. Thanks for, jumping on the ride here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Wow, this is great, man. Uh, what are your thoughts about the superhero genre anyway? Like, I mean, do you have even the slightest interest, or where are you at with that?
I loved superheroes basically all my life. I'm actually planning to get an X-Men tattoo this Saturday.
What?
Yeah, yeah.
Alright.
Be my first tattoo. So like I'm super into superheroes. I was more into them in my like late teens, early 20s. I'm more into horror stuff now. But
Mhm.
I've always liked superheroes, specifically the X-Men, who I think are but I think the Dark Phoenix saga and the Phoenix saga in general, like basically from when Jean Grey turns into the Phoenix till when she dies the first time, is like the best comic books of all time in my opinion. I haven't read every comic book, but I had a Marvel Unlimited, which is like their digital comic archive when I was in college,
Yes.
and I read so much. And I had a year where I was at a job where I was basically just sitting at a desk waiting for people to come in, and my desk was not forward facing. So I got Marvel Unlimited again that year, and I read so much. So I love the comics. I was very into the movies up until Avengers Endgame, which I loved. And I
Mhm, mhm.
haven't really gotten into the new stuff they're doing, especially because it felt like they rushed out a bunch of TV shows that were of varying quality, let's say. And it was
Yeah.
just hard to keep up. And
I
then we had a
binge watched
kid.
Moon Knight, but that yeah, I uh I haven't seen a whole bunch of the new stuff. I mean, honestly, man, I'm into the comic book thing. I'm getting these materials to read from Comixology originals, and that's been really cool. More of that's going to be showing up in my work. Um,
Nice.
it's really nice, actually. It's like finally, you know, just just starting to talk to people about the things that I want to talk about, like as in
Yeah.
this situation, you know what I mean? Um yeah, I'm really into the superhero stuff myself. I got to pick and choose here though. Let's go deeper into this tattoo. It's your first one, man. How'd you
My
make the
first
choice?
one. I thought about it. So my wife wanted to get a tattoo,
Mm,
and she said like she was gonna do it, and I was like, I want to get one too. I don't want you to be the only one with a tattoo. I don't want people to be able to like say shit to her about like, oh, you have a tattoo, and like I don't know, be condescending. I want to at least have one too, and be like, hey, like I am with her. And I thought about after that like things like
seriously, hope that doesn't happen, but yeah,
I do
continue.
too. There's specific people I'm worried about that I'm not going to mention on a public show who will do
I
that.
know what you mean, man. It's a crazy place out there, this world. That's why we need the X-Men.
Yeah. But I thought for a while about like things that I like
I
loved
definitely
and
understand.
things that like I will continue loving and things that will not be co-opted by like white supremacists. And the X-Men check all those boxes.
Right.
Hopefully the last one, because that was one of the things I was really worried about. Like, I love the Punisher as a comic book character. I'm not getting a Punisher tattoo because of the political symbolism of the that sign now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
X-Men also doubles because my goal is to write 10 good books, and X is the Roman numeral for 10. That part wasn't on purpose, but I realized that the other day, and I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna make it sound less like a little kid tattoo.
I mean, man, I'm really into comic books. I mean, What is it? What's the tattoo? Yeah,
Oh,
like,
sorry. Sorry. I'm gonna get the X-Men patch on my like
right.
shoulder bicep area. I'm
Okay.
debating between, and I don't have much time to decide between red and yellow and blue and yellow, but the X will be yellow and
Tough
like I want the
choice.
fill to be blue or red. I think I'm gonna ask the tattoo artist like, "Hey, what do you think would look good on my skin tone?" I have a real bad farmer's
I
tan.
do
I don't
that
think that's
too. I
ever gonna
make people flip the
change.
coin for me on major decisions.
Yeah, but I think like I know I want the X-Men tattoo, and it's the only question I have is blue or red. Just let the tattoo artist decide because they know more about skin and color than I'll ever do. I'm colorblind. I shouldn't be deciding anything related to colors anyways.
Can you can you do you know the difference between red and blue?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm like most colorblindness is like I can't tell between certain colors. I don't have it very badly. I just think like in terms of like aesthetic decisions that will be on my skin forever. I want someone who has all of the cones and rods working to make that choice.
I really enjoyed talking to you, man. I don't even know what to say. We got to do this more often. You know,
Yeah.
it's, it's like it's like an hour. I'm not even like finishing some of these leads, and I'm just like I just want to keep it running. Um, I I have all these books, like comic books, right around my desk, and since we're doing these kind of talks anyway, I'm doing this new podcast type thing called a comic book recap, where I can finally get through all of this great comic book material. This one's been sitting on my desk. This is
Oh,
Turok
nice.
Dinosaur Hunter, an independent publisher, Valiant Comics. Took this all the way to video games, and who knows what's going to happen next for Turok
So was
Dinosaur.
Turok a video game first? I remember the N64 game, or was it a comic first?
It was a comic first, and they made it
Oh,
into a video game before trying to make a movie, and I think that is very, 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 very cool.
yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, imagine one of your horror stories being a video game instead of a movie. It's a fun way to think. You know what I mean?
That would be cool. I think Shorn on the 4th of July, the last story in the collection, would make a good video game.
Oh,
It's about
now I'm
a
gonna have to.
teenage girl escaping a robotic lawnmower. It just goes after her. It's like
Oh,
basically an animal attack story, but with a robot lawnmower. I feel like that'd make like a fun mini game. You escape it in different parts of the yard. I don't know.
what's a side quest that would be in this? I guess the whole thing is a side quest.
Yeah. The story starts because she saw her brother drink a beer at this 4th of July party and she wants to drink a beer. So she goes back the next day when no one's there. So I
Uh,
guess drinking a beer would be the side quest, but I don't think anyone wants this video game about an underage girl drinking beer as a side quest.
I have so many thoughts about that. So many thoughts. Also, I really, uh, I'm being a little all over the place here, but I really want to get to this. This is an adaptation of George Orwell's 1984 by Fido Nesti.
Oh, that looks
Gonna,
cool.
gonna really dig into that for this comic book thing I'm doing. And Ryan, man, just however we can figure out our another thing, I'd be very happy. Um, did you ever as writing video games, have you ever considered it or
Yeah, so there was a year where the first year out of college, I applied to grad school and didn't get in. I applied to all
mm,
these jobs, didn't get in. And there was the Boston Festival of Indie Games. So I thought about being a video game writer and I like emailed some guys. I talked to a guy named John Myers, who's incredibly nice to me. He writes I think he writes for Telltale Games. I had no idea I was going to be talking
okay.
about him today, or I would have looked him up so I could give him a glowing endorsement because he was great to me. And he took me to
No, absolutely.
lunch, and he just like walked me through the world of writing video games.
Wow.
And what he said was basically like, you're going to take 5 to 10 years off from writing fiction to get good at writing video games. 'Cause it's like its own craft, basically. And you got to
Right.
get good at like all these different skills that aren't necessarily part of fiction. And you have to like take this position like whatever gameplay feature the designers are excited about, that's going to be the main thing you're writing the story for. Not like a good conclusion, not interesting characters like the you press A twice and Mario jumps higher.
Right, right, right.
Which because that's the main point of the video game is the player having the fun with that, not you writing a good story. So like we walked through all of that, and I decided I didn't want to do it because it would
Hmm.
be it was the
Just a
giving up
different thing.
fiction for 5 to 10 years or whatever it would be would
Right.
have been really because I've always wanted to keep fiction as the main thing, and I think that I've been successful with that. I think I've turned away some things that might have been good, like good opportunities because of that, but I just want
Yeah.
to keep the thing that I want to do as the main thing rather than there's nothing wrong with writing to like pressing the A button twice so Mario jumps higher. I just don't
No,
personally
I
see that as what I want
definitely
to
know what you
do,
mean.
want to dedicate my life to, because that's what I'm doing. I'm dedicating my life to this weird art that everyone says is dying.
You know, man, I'm glad you mentioned that. Obviously, I don't think it's dying or I don't want it to die or whatever. I definitely know what you mean. There's so much joy to be found in reading and writing fiction, and I absolutely support this thing you're doing, you know?
Thank you. Yeah.
And by the way, I don't know, man, you've got the knack. You're switched on. You really sort of know your way around this podcasting thing. I really appreciate it. Um, so I've got books like, I'm trying to write right now. I'm just like picking
Yeah.
up books and reading like a couple pages and be like, like um I I wonder if I'm sure you're a little more polished in your approach to reading, or what are you reading right now?
I am listening to an audiobook of Nat
Hmm.
Cassidy's book Mary, which I'm really enjoying. He's got like a really funny voice, and the dialogue is all hysterically funny, and the story is still scary, so he's not losing that, which is like a hard balance to get in fiction.
Right.
I'm also reading Stephen King's new collection, You Like It Darker, um, Craft Stories I Learned from the Devil by Ananda Lamone. I've never heard her name said out loud, so I hope I'm saying it right.
No, it's
Um,
okay.
reading that as well. And then I'm on book 13 of 14 of Berserk, which
Right.
is this like, have you read that?
Is that the comic
It's
book
a manga. Yeah.
manga? Berserk. Oh, did they turn that into a TV series or something?
I think they did a couple seasons. They did a video game on like, it was like
I love how
SNES
everybody just
times.
says they. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like,
Well, I don't know
like
who did it.
we
It's
just call them they.
the
Like,
entertainment gods puppeteering us all. I believe that the man
um,
who's made his name is Kentaro Minura, and it's about this guy, Guts, and he has this gigantic sword, like 3 times bigger than him, and he's just killing monsters for there's been 13 installments, and I would say 700%. I don't know how many pages it was, so I can't say a page
right,
number. But each one's like 700 pages. He's killing monsters for like
the whole
85% of this thing, and they're all really cool looking, and all the violence is really great. Um,
yes,
I
that's
love
like
it.
everybody's kind of dream, right? Is to just no nonsense, just monster killing.
Yeah, it's a blast. I highly recommend it. A drunk guy at a bar came up to me one night. I was like, "You have to read this." And I was like, I would get the first one from the library, not thinking like it would be good. And it's been incredible. I don't know who that guy was. He just came up to me one night at a
Just
bar when I was selling books and was just like, such a good recommendation. I don't know how he saw into my soul, but he did.
yeah, man, that is so good. I really like that. So you say you love writing fiction. I believe you. But now you're really racking up a lot of horror titles, you know? Did you set out for that? Are you kind of amazed that you're on to still another horror book after this one, you know?
When I was 18, I got rejected from every music school for guitar playing. I decided I wanted to be a writer. and I'd always loved Stephen King. So like that was the moment I decided like, hey, I'm gonna do this. I want to be a horror writer like Stephen King. And when I went to college, I wasn't allowed to write that. It had to be literary fiction. My professors were great, and I learned a ton from them. Uh, then I went to grad school. It was the same thing. It was you have to write literary fiction.
Mm,
And so like I did for 7 years. And at the end of that, like my last year of grad school, I was like, I don't want to do this. This isn't what I want to write. And so I came back to horror. I don't know if it's what I'll always write, but it's what I want to write right now. And so I'm going to keep doing it until I want to write something else if that ever comes up. I don't think it will, but I'll follow my instincts wherever they take me. I think it's really important as an artist to do the things. John Skip puts it really well. Like you have a well, and you should keep going to the wells that give you more water, and don't go to the wells that don't give you anything because you're not going to get anything from them. You're going to hate it eventually. So you got to do the things, especially when we're in this field where it's like
right.
there's not enough money to go around. Stephen King is a millionaire, but if you talk to like Sylvia Morena Garcia was saying at an event where I saw her at, like she doesn't make a living, and she's had like 10 or 12 books published with big five publishers, and she's one of my favorite writers. And so, like, knowing that that's the reality, like, if you're not going to make a living, if you're not Stephen King, you better like the thing you're doing because you're going to
Yeah.
have like your another job around it. For me, it's guitar lessons, which I love too.
Yeah, that's kind of a nice mix actually, writing and guitar lessons. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I should say, like my wife pays all of our bills and provides our health insurance. So like I do have like a tremendous amount of privilege, and I feel like writers are often like pretend like they do not have those things. Like my spouse pays for us to exist, and I like make vacation money and pay for groceries.
Well, vacation money, there's something to be said for that. I believe that.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any ideal vacations coming up?
We want to go to Ireland next year. We
Love
want,
that.
well, I say I want to sleep in a castle. I think that would be fun. And I keep telling my wife, like, our daughter would love to sleep in a castle. It would
Yeah.
like fuel
Oh yeah.
her she'll be 3 by that point, I'm guessing. But it would just, I
Yes.
think, like, can you imagine being a 3-year-old in a castle? That would have to be so exciting and so cool. I imagine she would go ape shit and I would go ape shit. So 2 out of 3. I think my wife would like it. I don't think she'd like go crazy for it the way we would, but she would enjoy it. I think that
That's
would be
good, man.
cool.
I like this a lot. Thanks so much for coming on. We'll just shore up some details here. Honestly, I I could talk to you for much longer, but I've you got to make these kind of short and sweet a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Gosh, man, thank you. You did a great job.